Imagine treating your living room aquarium with, like, the exact same ruthless optimization as a massive Google server farm.
Oh, wow.
Right. Every single input tracked, every output logged, every tiny fluctuation in the environment monitored like it's a memory leak, just waiting to crash the entire system.
That is intense.
It is. And today we're doing a deep dive into the mind of a software engineer who views his fish tank not just as, a decorative pet, but as a complex biological machine.
Which completely flips the standard hobbyist script. I mean, we usually think of nature as this chaotic, untamable thing, right? And technology is rigid and controlled.
Exactly.
But when you apply a hacker's mindset to a miniature ecosystem, you start seeing variables, processes, and optimization opportunities where everyone else just sees water and glass.
Yeah, water and some pretty rocks. And that is the exact energy of the source material we have today. We're looking at a blog post from March 2026, hosted on qianmeng.org.
Right.
The author, Ang, describes himself as an old software plumber, someone who basically spends his nights tinkering with open source software.
A tinkerer, yeah.
And the specific post we're focusing on is titled Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 215, Exploring Ramshorn Snails.
Part 215, I mean, that number alone tells you everything you need to know about the scale and the meticulousness of this project.
Oh, absolutely. On the surface, you might look at this and just see a casual diary entry about dropping some snails into a tank. But the true mission of today's deep dive is to look past the glass.
Yeah, look a little deeper.
We are exploring the really fascinating intersection of systems engineering and biology.
Yeah.
Like, how does a hardcore coder go about optimizing a living, breathing ecosystem? Okay, let's unpack this.
To truly decode this post, we have to understand the architect behind it. Ang specializes in FLOSS.
FLOSS.
Yeah, for free libre and open source software. And that specific philosophy is crucial here. It's a world completely defined by transparency, continuous iteration, community patching.
Oh, I see.
And an absolute obsession with how discrete components interact within a larger framework.
Right, and he applies that exact same framework to his physical life.
Mm.
Like looking at the sidebar of his blog, the metadata is just staggering.
It's massive.
He has archives stretching back to 2011, publishing hundreds of posts a year. In March 2026 alone, he published 72 times.
That's more than twice a day.
Right. He's juggling notes on gardening, part 845, notes on Haskell programming, part 90, notes on networking. He is literally treating his everyday life as an open source project.
What's fascinating here is how that open source mindset recontextualizes the physical world.
How do you mean?
Well, to a developer deeply embedded in version control and continuous integration, a 20-gallon aquarium isn't just a pet, it's a closed-loop system.
Oh, okay.
It has strict parameters. You have inputs like light, heat, and biomass, and you have outputs like chemical waste.
Right.
It requires constant telemetry and tweaking to maintain stability. Ang is basically bringing the rigorous, systematic logging of a Git repository to the messy, biological world of aquatic plants and fish.
It makes perfect sense when you frame it that way. If he learns a new programming language, that's a software update.
Exactly.
If he changes the soil composition in his garden, that's a patch. And the foundational rule of any complex system, whether it's a massive distributed database or a fish tank, is that unexpected variables will eventually breach the environment.
Yeah, they always do. In software architecture, those unauthorized variables are bugs. In biology, there are pests, weeds, or parasites.
Right. The system will inevitably be tested by some outside force.
Always.
Which brings us to the arrival of the bugs. In this specific instance, a species known as the Malaysian Pond snail, or radix species.
Right, and Ang notes that his initial success with these snails wasn't planned at all.
They were accidental.
Completely.
Yeah.
These Malaysian pond snails literally hitched a ride into his tank. They were likely clinging as microscopic eggs to the leaves or roots of some aquatic plants he bought from a local store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he planted the greenery, and suddenly he introduced a rapidly replicating unintended variable into his perfectly closed system.
Wait, I have to push back on this.
Okay, go for it.
If I'm carefully curating an aquarium, balancing the pH, measuring the water hardness, getting the temperature dialed in perfectly, and I suddenly find a rogue organism breeding in there, my first instinct is that my system has been contaminated.
You'd panic.
Totally. I'm reaching for the net. I'm quarantining the tank. Isn't an unintended, rapidly breeding snail essentially an infestation?
See, that is the standard consumer-level reaction. You see an unauthorized element, you assume it's malicious, and you try to delete it immediately.
Right, get it out of there.
But look at this through the lens of a FLOSS engineer. Open source development relies on observing how unexpected inputs interact with the existing code.
Ah,
Instead of panicking and dumping algicides or harsh chemicals into the water, Aang observes the bug's behavior in the runtime environment.
he monitors the output.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a masterclass in handling serendipity within controlled environments. He steps back and watches what the bug actually does.
And what did it do?
He realizes these Malaysian pond snails are actively grazing on algae. They are processing waste. He had unintended success breeding them because they were actually doing highly valuable, unprompted computational work for the ecosystem.
So the bug was actually a feature.
Exactly. He recognized the feature.
That is a really profound shift in perspective, honestly. The idea that an unexpected input, something that entirely bypasses your firewall, can lead to a more optimized outcome if you just stay open-minded enough to watch it execute.
It challenges our innate human need for absolute top-down control. Aang built the environment, sure, but he allowed the environment to introduce its own efficiencies. He let the system surprise him.
I love that. But recognizing the utility of these accidental snails triggers a totally different response in his engineer brain, right?
Oh, yeah.
He realizes he has this highly functional piece of code running in the background, but he wants to optimize it. He wants version 2.0, so he heads to his local fish store.
Right, the hitchhikers basically prove the concept. Now, he decides to be deliberate. He writes, I figured it was time to be a bit more intentional.
Let's upgrade.
Exactly. He's scanning the store, analyzing the available biological hardware, and he discovers the Ramshorn Snails, the Planorbidae family.
Here's where it gets really interesting. You would assume a hyper-analytical, data-driven systems guy would just look at the raw specs, right?
You would think so.
The Ramshorn snails reproduce at the exact same rate as his accidental snails. They consume algae with the exact same efficiency. Functionally, at a base level, they are identical to the Malaysian pond snails. Yet, he swaps them out for a completely different reason.
He upgrades because of the visual design.
Yes, he notes that the Ramshorns offer a major aesthetic upgrade. They feature these vibrant reddish shells coiled into a really tight, neat spiral.
They look cool.
They look amazing.
Yeah.
To me, replacing the highly functional but visually drab Malaysian pond snail with the vibrant Ramshorn is exactly like upgrading a piece of back-end software.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Like, you might have a database that works flawlessly, but if it's just raw text on a black terminal screen, it's brutal to interact with, you know?
It's a nightmare.
The Ramshorn is the beautifully designed user interface. It executes the exact same background tasks, but the elegance of the design changes the user experience entirely.
That highlights a core human truth that honestly often gets lost in pure engineering discussions. Even the most highly analytical, data-driven plumber deeply appreciates beauty.
We all do.
We have a fundamental desire to blend utility with aesthetics. Aang was actively looking for, quote, colorful alternatives. It proves that form and function are not mutually exclusive at all.
They work together.
In a well-designed system, visual appeal actually complements utility. The high-contrast red shell against the green aquatic plants reduces cognitive load when he's just scanning the tank to check on things.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. It's easier to see them.
Exactly. And this is a great moment to reflect on your own workflows. What stands out to you when you choose a tool? Is it just function, or does form play a crucial role? I mean, think about the apps you use every day.
I know for a fact if an app has a terrible UI, I'm abandoning it.
Yeah.
I don't care how much time the algorithm theoretically saves me.
Right.
I need the vibrant red shell. I need the Ramshorn.
A beautiful UI is critical for adoption, but a pretty shell alone doesn't justify consuming resources in a delicate, closed-loop ecosystem.
No, it doesn't.
It has to earn its keep on a mechanical level.
It absolutely has to earn its keep. So let's dig into the actual physical execution of what these snails are doing. Aang describes them as an excellent cleaning crew.
Right.
They're constantly gliding along the glass, grazing on the microscopic layer of biofilm and algae.
Which is really helpful for visibility, but their true systemic value lies in how they handle the primary organic input of the aquarium, the fish food.
Yeah, Aang specifically mentions that they polish off leftover fish pellets to prevent ammonia spikes. And I kind of want to frame the Ramshorn snail as a biological Roomba.
A biological Roomba, I like that.
It's an incredibly efficient background process. To stick with our software parallel, it's essentially biological garbage collection.
Meaning it's hunting down the memory leaks, or in this case, the rotting food before the system crashes.
Exactly. In modern programming languages, if a program hoards memory and never frees it up, the system eventually runs out of resources and dies.
It freezes up. Yeah.
Right. So garbage collection is this hidden automatic process that sweeps through, finds the unused memory, and clears it out. Just like a background process sweeping up unused memory so a server doesn't crash, the snail is sweeping up rotting pellets before they trigger an ammonia spike and crash the ecosystem.
The mechanics of why that matters in a closed environment are just fascinating. We have to look at the nitrogen cycle.
But
In a natural open system like a river, if a fish misses a pellet of food, that food just washes away downstream.
right, it's gone.
The sheer volume of water dilutes any decay. But an aquarium is a small, sealed box of water. When that leftover pellet sinks to the bottom and begins to decompose, it undergoes a chemical reaction. The rotting organic matter produces ammonia.
And ammonia, even in trace amounts, is highly toxic.
It is lethal. It burns the gills of the fish, destroys their mucous membranes, and it just cascades through the tank. The entire biological system becomes a toxic wasteland incredibly rapidly.
Wow.
An aquarium relies on beneficial bacteria in the filter to slowly convert that toxic ammonia into safer compounds, like nitrites and then nitrates. But that bacterial conversion takes time.
So the snail buys the system time.
Precisely. The Ramshorn snail, your biological Wumba, is performing physical preventative garbage collection. It locates that rogue pellet before the decomposition process reaches critical mass, consumes it, and converts it into a much less harmful, stable byproduct that the tank's bacterial filter can actually process at its own pace.
That is so smart.
It acts as a vital buffer between a minor input error like feeding the fish a fraction of a gram too much and a total catastrophic system failure.
It's basically saving you from your own input errors.
Yeah.
You overfeed the tank, the system logically should crash based on the parameters, but the snail quietly sweeps up your mistake while you're sleeping.
Yeah.
The architecture of that is just brilliant.
It is the ultimate failsafe. But there is one more feature of the Ramshorn snail that elevates it from a simple sanitation worker to a highly advanced piece of biological technology.
Oh.
It's a feature that deeply resonates with Ang's systems engineering background.
Right. Ang writes that these snails are a perfect indicator of low oxygen levels. If you look at your tank and you see all your Ramshorn snails suddenly rushing to the surface of the water, they are broadcasting that the dissolved oxygen in the tank is dropping dangerously low.
They are essentially providing biological telemetry.
How does a snail even do that? And why Ramshorn snails specifically and not the original hitchhikers?
This is where the biology gets incredibly cool. Unlike most aquatic snails, ram's horns belong to a specific group that actually possesses hemoglobin in their blood.
Hemoglobin, like humans have.
Just like humans, hemoglobin is highly efficient at binding and transporting oxygen. And because they have this mammalian-like trait, their blood is red, which, by the way, actually contributes to that vibrant shell color we talked about earlier.
Oh, that makes sense.
But more importantly, it allows them to utilize atmospheric oxygen when the dissolved oxygen in the water runs out. They have a specialized pouch that acts almost like a makeshift lung.
A lung.
Yeah, so when the water goes hypoxic, when there basically isn't enough oxygen to breathe underwater, they use that hemoglobin advantage to literally race to the surface and breathe actual air.
So what does this all mean for the system administrator, I mean? It means the snail is not just a janitor. It's a living diagnostic tool. It is an automated ping alerting you to a hidden variable change. It's the check engine light. If you manage a server farm, you have to build complex dashboards to monitor server health, right? You write scripts that ping your phone when a server is overheating.
Right, and historically, in fish keeping, to monitor dissolved oxygen, you would have to buy chemical test kits, take physical water samples, wait for a chemical reaction to change the color of the water in a test tube.
Oof, sounds tedious.
Or you'd invest in expensive digital probes that require constant, annoying calibration.
Instead, Ang just looks at the glass UI. If the snails are grazing at the bottom, the system is nominal. If the red snails are clustered at the waterline, the system is failing. It's a built-in biological API.
This raises an important question. Ang writes in his post, "Honestly, I wish I would have introduced them to our aquarium all these moons of indulging in fish keeping, given how much they bring to the table."
He's regretful.
He is lamenting that he operated a complex system for so long without this built-in telemetry. Finding a natural, intuitive warning sign, something that alerts you a completely invisible problem is brewing before it reaches the threshold of catastrophe, is the absolute holy grail of system management.
It really is. It gives you a profound respect for the sheer optimized utility of the natural world when you view it through the right lens.
Totally.
So let's recap this incredible deep dive. We started by exploring the mind of an old software plumber, logging his patches and updates on the internet. He showed us how a hyper-analytical, open-source mindset handles an unexpected biological bug-a-hitchhiking Malaysian pond snail.
Right.
He taught us not to delete the unauthorized variable immediately, but to monitor its output, turning a potential infestation into a system feature.
Then he demonstrated the value of the aesthetic upgrade, swapping in the Planorbidae, the Ramshorn, and recognizing that beautiful UI design and raw backend utility can and absolutely should coexist perfectly.
Finally, we uncovered the hidden mechanical genius of the snail itself. The biological Roomba executing crucial garbage collection to prevent toxic ammonia spikes, and utilizing its unique hemoglobin to act as a living, breathing API for the water's oxygen levels.
Yeah.
It is a staggering amount of systems engineering packed into a tiny, red, spiral shell.
It really is. And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on that concept of the snails rushing to the surface.
Okay.
In ecology, an organism that reacts to invisible dangers first, giving a warning before the entire environment collapses, is called an indicator species. Like, look at your own life. Look at your workplace, your household, your daily routine.
Your own closed systems.
Exactly. These are your complex human ecosystems. What are the subtle, overlooked indicator species in your life? Maybe it's the fact that your kitchen counter is suddenly buried in mail, or a usually chatty coworker has gone completely quiet, or you've stopped listening to your favorite podcasts on your morning commute. What are the subtle signs quietly trying to warn you that the oxygen in your life is getting low before your personal system crashes?
That is a brilliant question to end on. Pay attention to when your metaphorical snails are heading for the surface. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep looking for the hidden systems around you, and we will catch you next time.